Hello, I'm Beatriz Pinto from Thermo Fisher Scientific, and I'd like to thank you, Dr. Shaco, for your lecture and also for your participation in our event. I'm sure that all the experience that you and your colleagues from Israel will contribute to our actual scenario here in Brazil, and we will enrich our event. I have collected some few questions for you, and I really want to hear your comments. So you told us a lot about the main impacts of doing in-house tests. If you have to point one big impact of the doing in-house testings for the treatment of the patient perspective, what would be this one big impact?
Well, I think the major thing is that it's just the right way to do it medically. If you think about it as a medical doctor, this is the correct way. This is the way that, high quality medicine is done in every field. You always have to have correlation between the clinical data, between the pathological data, and, to consult with other people, like in what you do in tumor boards, and then to make a decision which tests to order, how to interpret them, and then give the best treatment for the patient. So I think the major point is that it's just the right way to do it. And if you want to say it, like more in a detailed answer, so as we said, it will give better results. The patient will get the better treatment that he should receive. It will be like tailored to him in a better way when it's not done technically in some remote lab, but after discussion of all of the experts who are treating the patient. And then it will also be faster, it will be safer, you will not lose tissue, you actually save tissue when you have problems with small biopsies. So, it's just the best way and the right way to do it.
Amazing. So one point that you didn't touch in your previous answer is that reducing turnaround time to result is a hallmark in in-house testings, right? So how important, in your experience, is to have a fast and automated workflow for NGS?
Right. Yeah, actually, yes, it's part of the whole thing that it has to be fast. We are talking about patients who are critically ill. It's patients with metastatic cancer. And some of the diseases sometimes the disease is actually going very fast and the patient is really deteriorating each day. So you cannot wait for the NGS results. And we see that sometimes when it's done in a remote laboratory, it may take even 6 weeks until you get the results. And these patients, for example, lung cancer patients with metastasis, they cannot wait 6 weeks. They don't have these 6 weeks. So what actually is going to happen is that oncologists cannot wait, and then they start treating with chemotherapy. They just give up and they say, I cannot wait for such long, and give just, standard chemotherapy. While on the other hand, if you perform it in-house, you have the block and you can just do it. And also another thing that I didn't say, that, when you talk with the oncologist, sometimes they can deliver you, the urgency and say, well, this patient really deteriorates, can you just, give him a priority in your lab? You can do it, right? So then you can have the test results in a week. So it's a major difference, a few weeks, sometimes 6 weeks and 1 week. And then it's critical for the patient because 1 week usually they can wait, and then they'll have the results and they will receive the treatment they should receive. But when you send it abroad, turnaround time really goes, it can be, very long. And for these patients, it's really critical. Every week matters for them. So yeah, so that's a big point.
Yes, I'm sure the timing concerns also Brazilian doctors and Brazilian government. But when we talk about pathology lab, is there any specific requirements or any pathology lab today can do these profiling genomics tests for key predictive markers, or is there any specification that they have to improve themselves before doing these molecular tests?
Yeah, so it's actually not that simple. Performing molecular tests requires, first of all, obviously having the equipment, and obviously more important than the equipment is the people, people who have the education that allows them to actually perform those tests. Usually in Israel, it's people with the PhD who studied like biology, like health science, right? And so they have a PhD in health science or in biology and stuff like that. And they have experience in doing molecular assays, like in molecular biology. So you have to have those it's not really lab technicians, it's actually lab scientists. You need to have them. Obviously, you need to have the equipment. And then in Israel, after you have that, you have to perform something like we said in the ring trial. You have to perform like how will I say it? Like you receive like 20 specimens that you don't know the results, okay, and you will send those results to the Ministry of Health in order to show them that you know actually what you are doing, okay. So after you actually perform those tests that are needed, you receive a certificate in Israel from the Ministry of Health showing that your lab can actually perform these assays. Now, in Israel, what we do is that you have to do these tests for each, let's say, method, but once you show that you can do NGS, so you don't need to perform a test for each panel, okay? It's like you receive a certificate for doing fish, then you receive a certificate for doing NGS panels. It goes like this. But obviously, not every laboratory can do it. These are very sensitive and very complicated assays, and it's much more complicated, obviously, than H&E, and also more complicated than immunohistochemistry. But even in immunohistochemistry, you have to know what you're doing. You have to have your lab technicians who are qualified for this. So same thing here. You have to have the qualified personnel, you have to have the equipment, and then you have to receive the certificate. In Israel, the Ministry of Health gives it. I don't know how it's done, in other countries, but I guess it should be similar.
Thank you, Dr. Shaco. We were talking about the pathology lab can do anything, any pathology lab. So you said, no, it's a matter of people. It's a matter of equipment. Also, it's a matter of the talent you have inside your lab, and it's a matter of sensibility. And also, you talk about how Israel certificate these labs for the NGS tests, right? So, do you have any message for the Tarsila project players? How important is this ring studies to in-house test certification, or this ring study validating these kind of in-house tests locally? Do you have any message for these players?
Well, I think actually a cooperation between those labs is very important. Usually, for example, in Israel, as I said, we began with 6 labs. Now we have 11. And I think it's always like this, that you have those leaders, of each process. So I think cooperation is very important, that those labs that are actually going forward will help the other ones, to learn how to do it properly. So, for example, here we had one lab in northern Israel that, developed faster, and they were really great. And each time that we had a question, why isn't it working, or what do you suggest to do in a situation like this and like that, they were always very cooperative, and they really helped everybody to go forward. So I think it's important, not to keep the knowledge for yourself. If you learn from a mistake, you have to share it with the other labs. And if you know how you can manage some problem, share it with the other one. So then everybody will learn very fast. And also this lab in Northern Israel, they were the center of those ring trials. So they gave many specimens, they shared it. It's not so easy, to get enough DNA, samples from those tissues, but they had, and they shared it with the other labs, and we saw that each one is getting the same result and that it's correct. So, somebody has to lead it. I think that will be like the best, and cooperation between everybody. And sometimes maybe even having like meetings. In the beginning, we had some molecular pathology meetings, and we presented cases, we presented problems in the labs, and how we do it appropriately. So, and I think, just believe in yourself and go ahead and do it, because sometimes you see hospitals and laboratories that they say, well, we have so much work and we don't have enough people, so we cannot do it. This way you will never go forward. And there is no vacuum. There will always be some people, like all of those, pharma companies, etc., that if you have a vacuum, they will catch it, they will do it, and then it will be too late. So I'm saying, just start doing it. Just go ahead and do it. Make your hospital management understand how important it is, and buy the NGS, and get those high quality people who can, biologists, to do the test, and just start doing it. And, if you just jump into the water, usually, then you swim. Like in Israel, every pathology department that decided, well, we want to be part of it, we don't want to be left behind, now they're doing it. Even medium-sized pathology departments. It's not in the sky, it's like, it's possible. And I know that you also get support from the companies. For example, in Israel, we get support from Thermo Fisher, and they help us solving problems. And they helped us a lot in the beginning with the analysis of all of these panels. So I think, you have to know how to get your support from everywhere, and then just do it. And I'm sure everybody can succeed.
Dr. Shaco, from the top of your experience, how do you see the future of precision medicine? How far we can go?
Well, it will be hard to predict, you see, because who thought that we're going to do all of those things? I mean, like, we didn't talk about liquid biopsy, that we can obviously, as you know, get DNA from the bloodstream, tumor DNA, and perform like dozens of genes just from the peripheral blood. I mean, I think it is amazing. So it seems that it's a field that is really going very, very rapidly. It seems that really in the very, very near future, we're going to do those very broad panels for every patient with metastatic disease. So precision medicine is going to be wider and wider, because it's actually better for the patients. It's more efficient, it's usually less toxic, it's just better. So it seems that it's going to be, it's going to be very routine, I think, and for every patient with metastatic disease. And who knows, maybe afterwards also for every patient with cancer, I guess. It's going to be done probably for every patient with cancer, just profiling all of those genes, hundreds of genes, and probably we will have more and more hundreds of genes, just profiling every tumor. Probably every patient who has cancer, his tumor will be sequenced just from the beginning, in order to know how to treat him when you need it, and even before he gets with metastatic disease. And I think it's going to be great for the patients, big help for those patients. And it also gives a lot of power to the departments of pathology, because when you think about it, now we're not only telling the patient and the physicians what's the diagnosis, we also tell them what's the treatment. So it makes pathology very powerful when you think about it, right? It's not only diagnostic, it's also for treatment. This is the cancer, and this is the treatment you should get. It's really being the brain, behind everything. So it's great for pathology. And who knows what we'll have more, but I think probably, as I said, for each cancer we'll have profiling, And maybe also with the peripheral blood, the liquid biopsy would get more sensitive and would be able to do not only dozens of genes, but also hundreds of genes. So yeah, I guess it's going to be very fast, and it should be a routine in every medium-sized and large department of pathology.
That's great. So thank you, Dr. Shaco, for all the lesson learned today. We really appreciate all the points you had to taught us. It is really important to share experience for some talented people just like you and your colleagues.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And good luck. Good luck with the molecular pathology in Brazil. Don't give up. Do it. Okay. Thank you very much.